So I'm about to get on a call with Cody Schwab. We're gonna be talking the Melee Hall of Fame.
Yo.
Hey, what's up? Yeah, so this is a cool idea. I saw your tweet a couple days ago, or maybe it was even like a week ago or so. I've thought about this kind of thing a lot. I feel like my default inclinations when I think about this sort of thing is I actually do, in spite of being kind of old school, I actually do kind of have a modern slant. So I'm gonna try to be, I feel like you brought me on to kind of provide more of an old school context, so I'll try to actually fight my biases and go a little more old school.
I think that I brought you on because you have good overall knowledge.
Oh, awesome.
I liked your overall knowledge, because the old school stuff, I always take old school with a little bit of a grain of salt, because I feel like the game was smaller also. So I feel like you don't induct as many people when it's a smaller like class of people. So pre-MLG, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know shit about pre-MLG.
So here's something that's kind of funny, is that I actually think that there are people from 2002, 2003 that are still, I think, household names today. Like, I think Azen and Chillin are two people.
They were winning stuff at that point, right?
They actually were already good at that point. Yeah,
okay. And I think those are two no-brainers for a Melee Hall of Fame. Like, pretty clearly.
Those are clearly two no-brainers. That's right. There's a Melee blog, bigknock.com, talking about Smash history, the early ages, 2001 to 2003. The first tournament I see Ken winning was January 2003. That was Tournament Go 4.
Ken probably goes in.
Ken probably goes in there, yeah. So I lived in Japan for a bit, in 2010 to 2011, and I got to talk a lot to Captain Jack, and he told me stories of when Ken and Isaiah went to Japan. And it's really interesting because he said something also that I thought was really interesting about, because he was active at the very start. So Captain Jack would actually be pre-MLG, and he was saying that, like, at the start of Melee, when the game came out, and this makes total sense, like, I'm gonna say it and you're gonna be like, oh yeah, of course that was the case. But it's just like every other, like, at the start of Brawl, like, the best players at the very start of Brawl were Melee players. Like, for, like, the first couple, like, Azen and Mewtwo King and, you know, so on. Captain Jack was like, yeah, at the very start of Melee, the best players were actually 64 players. And I was like, oh, yeah, of course.
Makes sense.
That makes total sense. So he was saying, like, in Japan, for example, Brown Mario was, like, the first best player. He was one of those because he was also active in 64. Same with Thunders, who now lives in Ohio. Thunders was actually active at the start of Melee, but he played a bit of competitive 64, so he was also one of the first best players. And I think if we're going to get some Japan on here, I think they will largely trend very, very early. Obviously, there's AMSA later on, but I think that most of the really relevant Japanese players are probably pretty old school.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to note that we're including, like, talent and stuff, and not just players. Impact on the community is equally important, because we will just put them in a different category where it's like it's there for impact or like outstanding contribution to the game or something. How good was DSF is my question, because I don't know much about him. So let me look up Superfly Melee.
DSF is one of the people whose skill I can't really speak to, because when I started playing, he was already kind of like, I don't want to say washed, but okay, I'll just say washed, whatever. And I mean that with the most respect. Mango would tell you DSF was amazing. If Mango was here, Mango would be like, DSF has to be on here, I'm not doing the list. So the funny thing is, you know, Edwin Budding, I think it was Edwin Budding, did the top 100 of all time. And I'm reading DSF's blurb for that. What's so crazy about Die Superfly's famous win over Ken is how quickly DSF rose through ranks to become top threat. He only started seriously training to get better for a month or two before eliminating the King of Smash at Tournament Go 6. After his breakout, DSF stayed at the top level for many years to come, at one point having a positive record against Mango in 2007. So I would bet that a lot of DSF's really good results were just, because you also got to remember, there were way fewer majors back then. Yeah, it was probably a lot of West Coast locals. Because back then it was like, there'd be like 1 or 2 majors a year, unless it was MLG. I bet a lot of that stuff just isn't recorded in, like, you know, wiki pages and stuff like that, unfortunately.
Yeah. That makes more sense. Because I look at Reciferous and it's like Tournament Go 1, 2, and 3, which I know were like super majors back then, equivalent, right? So yeah, Tournament, 100%. This guy almost certainly should be on it, because at the 5 quote-unquote super majors, I guess he got second, first, second, which is wild. And I know most was a crazy tournament, right? That's where...
That was Ken and Isaiah.
Yeah, and apparently he got second there.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, that's really good.
So this guy is fucking cracked. He definitely should be on there.
Yeah, and I think you know, I think Mango and Hugo would get mad if he wasn't on there. So yeah, we gotta have DSF on there, Reciferous. Before I forget, I need to throw out that I think the Kish brothers all need to be on here, probably. Not just because they were very good. And they were very good. They were doing very well at tournaments in the early days. I think they were like the pioneers of Melee TOing.
Oh, then that definitely deserves it. If they're like the person who like learned, who like, I guess, introduced like modern TOing to any extent, then I think that's just such a huge fucking contribution. I think definitely DA West goes in here. I think that's like non-controversial.
I think DA West should be on here for sure.
And husband and wife were this era, right? Or
husband and wife were, I believe, this era. And I would put Isaiah in this era. I think Isaiah is the same era as Ken, basically.
Here's an interesting question for MLG. Dreffin?
Oh yeah, I don't when did Dreffin start doing stuff? Man,
And is Dreffin a Hall of Famer?
Oh man, yeah, boy, that's a great question.
I feel like that's a board. I feel like, you know, when they call like the accumulators in sports, where it's like this guy had a great career, was really long, but he was never like at the peak.
So here's the thing. It's great that you
Okay.
just said that. Sometimes I talk about Dreffin, and sometimes I play devil's advocate. I'm like, well, was Dreffin really that good? And then someone usually from the Midwest or whatever goes, bro, Dreffin did beat Mewtwo King that one time, and I'm like. He did, didn't he? And that was like, that was like #1 Mewtwo King. Like he beat.
And how many attempts? That's the imperative question. Because if you're 1 in 10 with someone,
well, you didn't
you got
get that many
farmed.
attempts back then.
I don't care. You got farmed. You got one. Congrats. Especially it's whatever.
Dreffin is almost like, man, to me, like the line for getting into this Hall of Fame, I'm almost ready to call it the Dreffin line. You know what I mean? Like Dreffin is the gatekeeper. Like if you're more relevant than Dreffin, you're in. If you're less relevant than Dreffin, you're out. And that's like the cutoff.
Let me look at Shootout actually real quick before I forget.
The very first rankings, like global rankings that they ever did, Hugs and Chillin did a top 25 ranking. And I think Chu was second. Now, granted, this was 2007. So this was like after Isaiah was like a little bit lower, etc. Like this was after Chu was better than Azen. I think Azen was probably the best in MDVA for a long time.
I would imagine so. I don't know who else would be better. What was the name of the TO that you said? The freaking
yeah, there's 3 of them. The Kishes, yeah, Kish Prime. I think probably just all 3 of them should be in. I know one of them passed away, unfortunately. I think that was Kish Cubed. I think Kish Cubed. I think they should all be honored. Kish Prime and Kish Cube passed away in 2005, and MLG made a donation in his name to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Flame of Bowser 3, he actually placed first, going 2-0 the whole tournament, beating DSF, Eddie, and Dreffin. So there's Dreffin coming up, by the way, for the first time. So yeah, I'm gonna put all 3 of them on here. And I think Kish Prime and Kish Squared, all math-related names. Kish Prime and Kish Squared were like the TOs for the Melee FC series, which I think they invented the crew battle. So they have like a ton of contributions to Smash. Like I think round robin pools, stage.
That's
like,
an insane amount of stuff.
Like
to
neutral stages and bans and stuff. Like they did a lot. I think they kind of were implementing Dave's stupid rule, and there were a lot of things that we still kind of rely on in the Melee kind of TO landscape today that they contributed.
Someone keeps saying Matt Deasy.
Oh, Matt Deasy. Matt Deasy is a really interesting figure. He was the TO for Tournament Go. He coined the term shine. He coined the term chain grab or chain throw. I think he was like the first person who it says here, he created a much more professional environment by spending his own money for prizes and travel stipends, accommodating living expenses by renting hotel rooms, bringing Japanese smashers. He was the guy that brought Captain Jack to the US for the first time. So he and Matt Deasy is really interesting because these days he kind of stopped being active with the Smash community pretty early on. Like 2005, I think he was mostly not doing stuff anymore. He was like really old school in Smash, but he went on to work for Capcom, and he kind of brought that knowledge to Capcom, and he was like basically the guy that started Capcom Pro Tour and stuff like that. Like he was the guy that kind of made Capcom esports a thing. So you'll see him at Capcom Pro Tour and stuff, these days you'll see him kind of on stage, announcing stuff. Yeah, so he kind of brought that tournament experience from the really early days of Melee to Street Fighter, which is really interesting. So he's a really interesting guy. I definitely think he's a case just because he was like the first really important TO, I think.
Yeah, no, I feel like again, pioneering TO is probably a really good reason to be thrown into this list. Also, I'm looking at DSF. I'm not convinced by DSF at all. I'm sure I'm missing just some results, but every single thing I'm looking to, he didn't win anything, and his highest rank ever the world was 10th. I'm just thinking, like, if he actually started in 04, I feel like at this era, it's just too hard to get in. I feel like he's probably a really good player that doesn't get in.
Yeah, that's totally fair. He's probably, to me, he's like kind of borderline. I'm looking at like the earliest SoCal PRs. And like, for context here, right? In 2007, he was 3rd on the PR in SoCal behind Ken and Hug, which is, that's good.
Respect.
Mango was 5th. And then on the one after that, Mango would climb to 2nd. So then it was Ken, Mango, Hugs, DSF. So he's definitely borderline. I think he's like roughly Dreffin tier. But yeah,
without the longevity, which is
without the longevity, that's true. Yeah, Dreffin is more of a case from that sense.
I think Dreffin just has been around for so long and still has decent results like to this day that he's more of a case. But again, much of an accumulator. But I think that's why we have that as a goalpost, where if you don't have a better career than Dreffin, I think there's no way I can let you in. At least by the standards that I currently have. That could change. Also, Chillin pre-MLG, I thought he was an MLG error. No, didn't Chillin beat Ken before MLG?
Yeah, when was that?
Yeah, Chillin's definitely pre-MLG. Look at this. He got 5th at Game Over.
Game Over was the tournament.
Yeah, no, he's definitely pre-MLG. Because Chillin never won a major, as far as I'm aware, right? Like a real bona fide major, so we're not judging it by when he won a major, obviously. And I would argue that Game Over was probably his breakout.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's probably especially for Chillin, it was probably really hard to win a major because any tournament he was at, Azen was also at. And I think Azen won everything on the East Coast.
But again, Chillin has a longevity thing, and even without longevity, he's done so much for Smash that he just has to be in there no matter what. Did we miss anyone from pre-MLG, do you guys think? KDJ is definitely MLG. Bomb Soldier, I thought, was also MLG era.
I think he would be MLG era. Bomb Soldier was like Jack Garden tournament was 2005, I believe. Bomb Soldier was very new school at that point. He was not projected to do well at that tournament in Japan. He was like kind of seated kind of low. Like that was actually kind of his breakout tournament, in fact.
So MLG era, I think obviously you're going to have like Mewtwo King. I'm just thinking alphabetically who I'd put first. I guess Bomb Soldier is probably up there just again for significance if nothing else. I'm pretty sure he was also really good. So let me double check that actually before I put him in. He only went to 2 tournaments. I don't think I add that to a Hall of Fame. Who? I think that's like Bomb Soldier. Did he only go to 2 tournaments?
Yeah, Bomb Soldier. Well, in the US you're talking about, right?
Well, no. I only see 2 tournaments on it. Pretty much anywhere. I wouldn't put him on this list. I'd put him on a separate list for people who have made outstanding contributions to Melee, but I'm not going to put him in the same list as these people. So
I think there would even be other Japanese smashers that I think would be more relevant and had more longevity.
Yeah, like, I agree.
To me, if I'm listing like the Japanese smashers that were really, really consistent back then that I would put on here, it would be like Aniki and Masashi.
I don't know enough about that for you. I'm gonna have to defer to you on those. I don't know anything about them.
Yeah, they won I think they won by far the most tournaments back then. I don't know if they ever came to the US. So I guess the question then, right, is like we don't have data on it because, you know, obviously we've only got for the most part American tournaments on like, you know, SSB Wiki and stuff like that. Because for example, there's the SSB, what is it, the retro SSBM rank. Edwin Budding's got like the top 100 all time. I don't really think he had data on those guys. Yeah, Zio, you know about Mikhail. Yeah, Mikhail was really, really consistent too.
European Omps is apparently this era, right?
Yeah, I would put him on here for sure. He was active and he was good for
great player. Yeah, no, he was way too good not to be
like
on here. That
still probably pretty good. Like, you know, I don't think he really competes like that, but
he was like close to being like, if you go to like sports analogy, like close to a first ballot. Not there, but like pretty close.
And like, man, he beat Armada at a super major.
Who else broke out in the MLG era? I don't think Court goes into the Hall of Fame. I feel like Court had a good year. I feel like if you're only going to be around and good for like 2 years or 3 years, you got to be really good for 2 years or 3 years. Oh, Hugo's in this era. Duh. Court got 10th and then 4th. That's actually better than I realized. 2 years is hard, but 4th is really good in the world.
I gotta tell you, I have a soft spot for Court. I really do, because when I started playing, I started playing in 08, and there were a lot of friendlies that would get uploaded between and in those days, like, you know, you'll take friendlies footage because there just wasn't much footage, period. And there were a lot of PC versus Court friendlies that I would watch when I was first getting into the game, and like, you know, they were just neck and neck. I mean, Court was like just as good as PC Chris, and you know, if you asked anybody, they'd be like, yeah, I mean, Court is just top 5 in the world.
So here's a question: what peak automatically gets you in? Because I feel like because of how short the game is, how not long the game's been out, and how short the average career is, honestly, I feel like some peaks should just realistically get you in. Like, what would you put J-Mook in? I feel like you have to after he won the 2 majors. The 2 majors, like, to me, that's the kind of the case that I use, right? And 2 majors is a huge like barrier to cross if you're gonna have a 2-year career. So that's why I'm wondering, like, do I think top 5 in the world for a year is a cutoff? That's a pretty damn good result. But do I think it's enough to get in a Hall of Fame? I don't really know. But I guess we'll think about it more.
Court is really on the cusp. I'm actually leaning towards yes.
Top 5 for a year is pretty good. Like, that's hard to do. And on top of that, he had another year of top 10.
He was 4th in 08. And
yeah, that's
nobody
crazy.
nobody else who was ever ranked 4th in the world, everybody, or I should say everybody else, I think is Hall of Fame.
Easily, yeah.
Right? Like, everyone else who ever got 4th in the world is easily. And like, the people he was ahead of too, he was ahead of PC, he was ahead of Chudat, he was ahead of Korean DJ, Hugs,
yeah.
J-Man.
That's a good list, yeah. He's an edge case. I might put him in MLG just because I want to balance out the list a little bit. I think that probably brings us to here where, God, is there a lot of people.
Yeah, this is, I mean, the scene really exploded, which is funny because, you know, Dark Age, I mean, when we say Dark Age, it was because it was the Dark Age in 2008, right after Brawl came out, and we thought for a little bit there might not be any more relevant Melee tournaments. But Dark Age encompasses Genesis and Revival of Melee and Genesis 2. Genesis 1 was 2009, yeah. Genesis 2 was 2011.
Did he include about inducting Mango? There is no talk about inducting you, Mango. You are obviously... Actually, you know what, Mango? We're not including non-retired players. You're not in.
Hey, Mango, how good... We're struggling with this one. And how good was DSF?
He was a SoCal legend, but I'm assuming that's kind of emphasis on SoCal. Like, he just didn't travel that much or do that much outside of it. Depends on how hard the criteria is. Right now, I'm using like sports Hall of Fame criteria. Like, Court was an edge case, but I wound up putting in because he got 4th in one year and 10th in another, and like top 5 just seems like an insane metric to not include for someone.
Everyone else who was ever ranked top 4 in the world
is 100% getting in, like no matter what. The 99%. Well, that's the point. It's a Hall of Fame. We have some eras for like, we have some distinctions for people who like aren't like, I think husband and wife even are more contribution than gameplay based on what I saw from results.
Yeah.
I don't know if I put Phil and Brandon in based on gameplay, but they're going in here somewhere. Like, clearly.
Oh, they would also be Dark Age for what it's worth, right?
Oh,
I think the funny thing is also Dark Age is where a lot of people who I think would be considered like you got to realize YouTube itself as a service launched, I think, at the very end of 2005. And so this was the first era where people started realizing like, hey, we can upload Melee matches to YouTube and actually kind of have it pop off like Wombo Combo.
Yeah. And then it fucking exploded.
Yeah.
And the game was still also new enough at that time that people still wanted to look at it too. Like
exactly,
there would have been intrinsic interest. What's the average length of career? I think you need to have 2 really good peak years at least if you're going in by gameplay. And if it's only 2, like one of them better be like 6, 5, 4 era. Zoo is almost certainly in. He didn't have as high of a peak, but he had crazy longevity that was also insanely good. I also think if you're a DBR, you get legacy points.
I mean, I think some DBR is going to be like, I think to me, Bobek's in.
I think Bobek's in just because he's a Genesis TO.
That's what I'm saying.
That's a contribution.
Yeah, that's
DBR,
what I'm saying.
Don't ask what it stands for.
What about I think J-Man probably has earned it. J-Man was like, I mean, J-Man was
permabanned, was he? Because we were permabanned. We're ignoring.
I don't think he was permabanned.
When was he actually? When did he break out? He's definitely this era. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, J-Man's for sure this era.
2 years in a row. Man,
I remember because here's the thing, right? Genesis 1, everyone thought J-Man was going to get like top 4. Really,
oh, damn.
J-Man was the reason. So J-Man was the reason Axe kind of got on the scene because the big story with Axe, no one knew who Axe was going in Genesis 1. I remember Axe was on the West Coast crew. I remember I actually asked Mango. Mango didn't even know who I was at the time. I was just fanboy. I was like, who's this Axe guy? Why is he on the West Coast crew? And Mango's like, yeah, I don't know. He's from Arizona. He plays Pikachu. I don't know. Mango kind of gave me this look like, yeah, I don't know why he's on, but whatever. And then that same tournament, he upset J-Man, and that was like the big story.
That's why he's on the crew.
Right. And it's like, all right, well, I can't take that away from him. And then ever since then, like, everyone knew who Axe was. Like,
that's
dude,
so funny.
for years, if Pikachu back through you and then did Thunder Jolt to gimp you, Thunder Jolt, like jump off stage Thunder Jolt up air, people called that the J-Man, which is fucked up, but because Axe did that to J-Man like 4 times in the set. So they called it the J-Man. It's like, dude, that's messed up.
Wait, Thunder, like down air or neutral B?
Neutral B. Neutral B.
What the fuck? How'd you get hit by that 4 times?
You double jump back and you up B, I guess. And people didn't know about shine stalling back then. People literally didn't do it.
Oh.
Yeah, people didn't shine stall.
I'm just like playing in my head. I'm like, how the fuck do you get hit by that? Lovage got in. Lovage definitely gets in. Lovage also won the first Big House, and he was just so good for so long. I don't know if the first Big House was a bona fide major. I'm pretty sure it was, at least for that time. But Lovage, I think, is like no-brainer gets in.
Lovage has done a lot. I mean, he beat Leffen in 2018.
Would Kage get in? He had a long career. I don't think he ever had a crazy peak though.
What is? Yeah,
like I feel like he had like a half Dreffen career. KK has a better argument for being top 10 one year, but even KK I think was a little.
KK was top 10 in the world multiple years.
Oh wait a second,
Kage
KK was
never
6.
top 10 in the world. KK was 6. Yeah, KK was like behind the 5
and 10 spanning 4 years. That probably gets you in.
I mean, leading up to Evo, the 2 people that like people thought might break into like the god tier were like, to me, it was like Kirby Kaze and like Hacks. The only thing about KK is he had a really bad record against the 5 gods. He always either choked it or, it'd go to game 5, but he never really closed it. Although he did beat Hungrybox at Apex, which was, I think, pretty big. And he did it with Sheik, which to be fair, I think that was like HBox's first loss against Sheik, like literally ever. So, that was pretty cool. Kage to me was somebody who had good tournaments, but like, I mean, maybe it comes with the territory because you play Ganon, but you'll have good tournaments, but it's hard to have a good year.
But you did play Ganon. Like, that's your fault.
You did play Ganon, yeah.
Would you say Axe broke out here? I feel like Axe, I guess if he broke out of Genesis, did he break out of Genesis or did he have just like a good tournament?
No, I think Axe is this era. Axe was he was like top 8ing everything by 2010. I guess he didn't get ranked top 10 until then, but to me, he's this era.
It looks like Johnny got 10th in 2011, which I'm counting as this era. But then SFAT was not close to 10th. So I would say SFAT's probably the next era.
I think SFAT's the next era, yeah.
And I think Dewan is Dewan got 8th in 2011.
Yeah, Dewan's more old school than SFAT. Dewan is definitely more old school. I mean, Dewan's also older.
All right, Dewan
he's literally just older.
I think Dewan's like close to like first ballot fucking Melee Hall of Fame. Dude had so many insane years.
Dude, I mean, man, when
so good.
Dewan it was crazy with Dewan because I remember when he like kind of decided to switch to Sheik. Back then, I was like, this guy's crazy. He would go to whatever major and he'd get top 8 with Dr. Mario,
which is insane.
Yeah, and then he did it again with Sheik, and then he did it again, and then he did it in double.
What era are you and Scar? Because you and Scar are getting in, if not for gameplay, at least for just contribution.
I would say 2013 and onwards.
You and Scar were 2013
Evo
onwards. Didn't Scar
years.
get? What about Scar?
Oh,
Genesis?
Scar would be right. Scar would be earlier than me. Yeah, that's true. Because
Okay.
Scar.
I'm just gonna throw Scar in here. Also,
Yeah.
We don't need to talk too much about Scar. He's obviously fucking in. And then I'll throw Brandon. Brandon was never like a top player, but Brandon definitely gets in just for everything else he did.
Yeah. Commentary, and also I think maybe less discussed than the commentary thing was he had the first really pop in YouTube channel. I mean, he basically him and I would say Prague kind of invented Melee YouTube, if that makes sense.
Phil's also this era. Phil obviously gets in for fucking commentary and just contribution.
Yeah.
I think Brandon and Phil have just been way too iconic not to be.
Yeah, I agree. And like to me, if we're putting TOs in, I think we should. I would go with Sheridan, and I would go like that, Sheridan.
Yeah, no, they definitely, again, Genesis TOs way too. Scar's right here. Scar actually had peaks for Melee gameplay, like pretty high peaks.
He did. I mean, I think it was really kind of like what I said about
more.
Kage. Like he got 5th at Genesis 1, and that was kind of like the big one. Was he got top 8 at Genesis 1? He had some East Coast like regionals that he did really good at. Like I know he beat PP during PP's come up. I know he won one of the Chudat tournaments over Chudat. But they were like smaller tournaments. They weren't like super.
Yeah.
Still not bad. But
Lucky was 9th in this era in 2010. Well, I mean, Lucky is also like obviously a Hall of Famer to me. I think that he got overshadowed a little bit in some ways, but I think that shouldn't take away from how good he was for how long. Like the entire 2010 to 2020, Lucky was like a top 20, 30 player and top 10 for 1 year.
Yeah,
I think that's a pretty damn good career.
To me, Lucky was this year.
Oh, Lovage is this era, right?
I would argue Lovage is the next era. Well, I guess actually never mind. When was Big House? Oh, Big House 1 was 2011. You're right. Because I was thinking Genesis, he wasn't quite there yet. No, Big House 1 was 2011, so that would be this era, yeah.
Okay, sick. Yeah, Lovage obviously I think just gets in him. I think the major criteria is no matter what. Dark Reign is borderline case. Again, Dark Reign, I don't even think had a single top 10 year. He had 1 year of 8, which is great, but he had a short career. And so we have to go back and see what the list looks like at the end. No Fly Manita. Fly had 10th and 6th back-to-back years. I mean, he pretty much spanned this era and he was top 10. And then he still got 17th right after that, 22nd, just a short career.
Fly, right, short career for sure. Fly was like, man, there was this whole like through the 2010s, every major you went to had an Ice Climbers in top 8. And I feel like the Ices players, like, I don't know if they planned this shit. Each of the top Ices players like served their time as the guy that was top 8ing the majors. So Fly was that in this time.
I think he definitely gets in, dude. This is a 5-year span. It's 10th, 6th, 16th, and then he goes down to 22nd, and then the next year goes all the way back up to 11th. It's 2 top 10 years, and then an 11th 5 years later. That's a pretty decent-sized career, and he's top 25 all those years, including 2 top 10 years and a peak of 6. That's just pretty fucking good.
He's also one of these guys that had wins over everybody. He had a Hungry Box win. He had a Mewtwo King win.
Yeah, and he's definitely this era, so that guy makes it.
PP
I didn't realize his career was that good.
I think he beat PP in pools at Genesis too. Yeah, he had an insane career. He beat everybody.
That's a good career. Wobbles I think is next era. Wobbles didn't get top 10 to the next era.
Wobbles Evo era for sure.
Johnny got 10th in 2011. I feel like Johnny's next era, but I guess not.
Yeah, I'm shocked by that. I don't remember him as being that good in 2011, but he did get second at. So if Lovage, I guess the argument is if Lovage is on for example winning Big House, Johnny was second at Big House, and also at this point, Lovage and Johnny together, they were winning every doubles tournament.
I also think Johnny's actually just had a crazy long career. Like he's been so good for, I guess, 13 years this point. And also, people forget during the Slippy era, he was either 3rd or 4th at one point. And that's 10 years later. Like, I think that just gets you in. I mean, we're not going to act like Slippy didn't matter at all. The next one starts, and I think now you guys get Wobbles. Wobbles, I think, is just here for sure. So, when did Jungle Guy start?
Well, Big House 1 was 2011. Theoretically, it's the same time as Lovage, right?
I guess so. People think Kobo didn't break out here. No, Kobol's breakout was like 2014. So we'll talk about him in this era. I don't know if he gets in, but he had a crazy career. Kobol will be definitely an edge case. People from this era that I know for sure. Hax is going to get in. I think we all know that. Like Westball's gets in for sure. SFAT will be in here, and SFAT is definitely in.
SFAT's got to be in, yeah.
He's just too good for too long.
Doubles alone.
Way too consistent.
Even if he never entered, if he never entered a singles tournament, it's still a case.
Which also means PUPU, because if nothing else, doubles. Plup broke out in 2015. Yeah, Plup and Leffen are definitely in here.
And Plup Samus was relevant as like a top 20-ish level threat as far back as like Apex 2012, I think. So, you know, he'd been doing it with Samus for a while, but it was when he switched mains. And
it's kind of how I put it. It's like, for me, like, I was good in 2019. I'd put my breakout in the Slippy era, though, because that's where I was like a top 3 player.
Right.
Silent Wolf's this era. Silent Wolf definitely makes it in, like, no matter what.
Yeah,
even if he didn't buy results, if I got one freebie, I would put in auto, no matter what.
Yeah, me too. I agree with that. He also did a lot, I think, for combo videos and things like that, like outside of just tournament results. Like, he was kind of an innovator when it came to content.
Oh, Android for doubles, probably, yeah. And Android was probably this era. I don't remember him being super around before that. You would count Axe and Amsa as 5 gods? Oh, definitely. Well, Axe was beforehand. Amsa's definitely here, though. A lot of good players coming out now. Yeah, so MLG era didn't spawn that many good players, interestingly enough. Well, actually, you know what? A lot of these people probably watched in the MLG era and then started playing here.
Yeah,
or broke out here. Fiction's here. Okay, yeah, Fiction almost certainly gets in. I can't imagine Fiction doesn't get in. Again, just how long he played for and how good he was.
Yeah, it's funny because his peaks
feel like they should have been higher.
Fiction had a couple, like, I remember Apex 2014. I know he got top 8 at one of those. He beat Plub. I think that was Apex 2014. He was very sporadic. I know he always laments that he feels like he quit for like the worst years to quit. He was like completely inactive 2015 to 2018.
Oh, that's a horrible time to quit.
Exactly. That was when everyone was getting sponsored and stuff.
And Fiction came back 2019, but he was really good in 2019. He was really good in 2020 before everything.
Right. And his results are good. His results aren't bad by any stretch of the imagination. But with Fiction is one of these guys where you feel like he hasn't quite.
He could be a lot better.
He could be a lot
I feel like he
better.
never hit his peak.
Here's an interesting one. I think in terms of his singles results, probably not quite there. But in terms of single results plus overall contributions, what about Nintendo?
Oh, I was looking at Ice. Ice to me was weird because he was like 11 to 20 for 4 years in a row. But he also was really good in doubles.
I mean, his peaks in singles were, I think he topped 3 to Big House.
Sorry,
yeah, his peaks were pretty high. I mean, he had those tournament wins. I remember he made left and throw his controller. That was funny. I mean, he was a beast. And it was crazy because, you know, he was so overshadowed by Armada and Leffen. I mean, knowing what we know now, yeah, I mean, it's hard to get ranked this high if you have to fly from Europe every time. And
I might give it, I think between being foreign and having doubles, I might be okay giving it to him.
Doubles is that's a good point. They did win stuff.
They had majors and doubles, and I think if we're giving it to doubles, I have to think about it more. He's not a Hall of Fame player. Well, again, we are considering doubles, Hapster. Him and Leffen did win majors and doubles. They were like a top 2, top 3 team for 4 years.
There was this circuit of doubles tournaments called Fuse. It was Genesis Fuse, and it was like exclusively doubles. So they were third behind PewFat and Armada Android. Yeah, Leffen and Ice. So yeah, they were absolutely one of the top teams. Man, Ice is such an interesting one. Man, I think if Lucky's in, then like I think Ice is like Lucky tier to me.
Well, the problem is that Lucky, one, did have a top 10 year, but 2, did it for 14 years.
Longer, yeah. And
that longevity in this tier matters a lot to me.
That's really true. And Lucky had the doubles boost. If you're going to argue Ice is the doubles boost, Lucky also won majors with Mango.
For Leaf Mango.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
I feel like Lucky to me was like a no-brainer. This one is a little bit
let's come back to Ice. Ice
definitely is. I think Ice and Fiction are both edge cases, but Fiction's weird because if he just didn't take that break, I think he's a no-brainer.
This would be anyone from the Evo years. If you're going to put me in, it would be this era for Evo,
you guys
I think.
You're definitely going down here.
Scar's already in Dark Age. So. You know, the funny thing about like TOs and stuff is I feel like the biggest tournaments that kind of warrant the most fanfare, I guess, you know, they kind of had already started at this point. It's really like Genesis, Big House. I mean, those are the tournaments that are still the biggest tournaments today.
I think people that I could probably add later, like maybe G-Town. Oh, Samox definitely goes in here.
Great point. Yeah.
Samox definitely goes in here, obviously. I'm still struggling on Cobalt, too.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. People from Florida are gonna hate me for this. Well, maybe not. This is old school enough that maybe no one's gonna hate me for this. Okay, here's a hot take. Man, I hate that I'm about to say this because I'm such a big Cobalt fan. I think Cobalt's placement that year was a little bit carried by his Apex placement. He had the soft bracket. He beat soft in top 8. Like he got 5th beating soft. And like to me, like at that same part of the bracket, I mean soft was fine, yeah, but like you know, on the other side of top 8, Fiction had to fight Hungrybox.
Yeah.
You know, like if Fiction had soft and Cobalt had Hungrybox, probably Fiction's, I don't know, like.
And then the Fiction gets top 10 that year or something. Yeah, I see that.
And I feel like because he got 5th at Apex, people were like, oh damn, Colt like this. So people maybe the real historians, maybe some Melee Stats guys could correct me on this, but I remember thinking Cobalt got a bit of an easy bracket. Wait, let me look at the bracket. Hang on, I'm gonna look at the bracket. April was Apex 2014, right? Yeah. Okay, so beat Chudat, beat Kage, I mean, that's pretty. So, okay, here's the thing though, right, man?
2 Ice Climbers.
Okay, here's the thing about Cobalt. Kolbal farmed mid tiers. Like everyone knew this
know.
in the day. If you're a mid tier main, the Fox you
Don't play
don't want to run
Kolbal.
into is fucking Kolbal. He beat Chudat, Kage, Fly, and Amsa. And to be fair, he also beat Silent Wolf. I mean, okay, it's a crazy tournament run. Don't get me wrong. It's a great tournament run. I don't know. Okay. I don't know. I'm not going to make a judgment call on it. Maybe I just... Okay,
Kolbal's an edge case. I feel like I'd want one more peak year from him. My problem is he had the 10th year, but then he has no other years
that's a
inside the
bad
top 20.
Yeah, to me, there's like a clear distinction between people like, let's say, Johnny, who are consistently top 15, but
For
peaked
10
top
years.
10. Exactly.
Yeah.
And peaked top 10 versus people who peaked top 15 and were very active, but on average trended a decent bit below that.
So I think we've established our little line that we want to cross. If you want to get in for 2 or 3 good years, you got to have like a court year where you got 4th.
Yeah.
And you can say maybe court's year was easy because Melee had died. Like, whatever. Maybe that's true, but...
I don't think so. I think Core was amazing.
Yeah, I was going to say the fact remains that
actually
being
don't think
fourth in
so
the
at
world
all.
is hard.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Core was
He
going
got
to
fourth, and that's
tournaments with
crazy.
PC and KDJ and Mewtwo King and stuff. He was...
Yeah, and he was doing well.
He
So
was a
that's
monster.
an insane year. Did we miss anyone from this era? Because I think we're probably ready to move on to the next one. Y'all got Cactuar. Cactuar might get in for outstanding contribution. He's not in for playing though.
Oh, here we go. You know who's this year? This era, Five Gods era? What about the Gims?
Oh,
Right?
yeah. I feel like you have to throw him in.
You got to throw the Gims in.
And VGBC is like a fucking cornerstone. I feel like you have to
Yeah.
throw him in. There's no way.
I feel like you have to throw him in, actually. I think Gimmer's on here. I
Anyways.
think if we're putting Blur on, I'm responding to your chat. I think if we're putting Blur on, I think that's next era to me.
Would it be? Because I remember him commenting like, wasn't Kings of Cali in this era?
Kings of
I
Cali?
feel like that's where I
Yeah,
remember.
oh, maybe you're right. Kings of Cali was, yeah, because he ran the Kings of Cali tournaments. Yeah, the first one was 2012. So yeah, that would be this era. And to be honest with you, Super Smash Sundays I think was huge. It did a lot for
Yeah.
the early days of Melee Twitch.
Can we give Blur a grosser color? We might as a joke. Vish is definitely next era to me. I think
Yeah,
Vish got his
Vish
start
is
on like
next
being
era.
super influential next era. So Zayn obviously is going to be in this era. He won in 2018. I'd probably not put me in this era. I'd put me as Slippy Air for my breakout. I
Okay.
mean, I don't know. Summit 8 kind of was a breakout. I was top 10 that year.
When,
I don't know. Chat, you guys can decide. Wizzy's here, obviously.
Was this the era that I mostly knew of you in this era from Crush calling you IBBW in every single tweet? Was that this
Yeah.
era? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was this era.
So for me, you're this era, but
Two interesting ones that my chat brought up. Lod and None. Lod has a top 10 year.
does have, wait, when was Lod's?
Top 10 first half of last year. Sorry, not full year.
Because Laud to me, Laud to me, his peaks were a lot more recent. I mean, Laud has been active forever and ever and ever, but same with Rishi. But yeah, I think if Laud's in, I think it would have been like Slippy era.
Lot is definitely a edge case. Gooms. If anything, I would probably put in Typo as the first controller.
Oh man,
person.
yeah, Typo. I remember Typo. Really,
I would
Typo
probably put in
pioneered that.
Typo as the first person who actually did the controller.
Well, Typo and I think even before Typo, Cardano.
yeah. Oh, Cardano definitely goes in here. Thank
I think
you.
Cardano does
super
go in.
missed that.
To be honest with you, Cardano did
I think
a
Cardano's
lot.
done way too much.
Yeah, he did
Our
a lot
community
outside controllers
is
too.
So much worse without Cardano. Cardano's probably.
I mean, I don't think Pew Pew's beating Hungrybox if not for Cardano.
I think Cardano's probably Five Gods era.
Five Gods era. Yeah,
Cardano definitely deserves to be in. He
That's
has
a
done
good one.
way too much.
Cardano
P-Test
deodorant. Cardano's done a lot for our armpits. You know, I do also have Cardano deodorant.
Dan for creating 20XX.
Mm.
Dan Salvatore, Dan Fornice, Dan Achilles, all decent names. I think
Yeah.
20XX is at a pretty outstanding contribution. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Same thing with like Uncle Punch. Like Uncle Punch is a pretty big Drug Fox. Drug Fox is probably going to get in for just analysis and like
And
contribution,
who's
but not
who's,
for.
was it? Was UCF Achilles?
I think so. Awesome Sauce definitely gets in. That dude has done so much for us. GR Smash.
I'm down for Cheer Smash actually.
GR
Achilles,
Smash is huge. You know how many people got into Smash because of him?
Yeah, dude, that channel is colossal. It still is actually.
Oh, Anther in this era for sure. Anther's Ladder. Anther's Ladder. I don't play Melee if not for Anthers.
Wow, really?
No, I started on Anthers. I don't play Melee.
Amazing.
Like, I don't play Melee. If you remember Jerry doesn't play Melee if it's not for Anthers. A lot of people started there. I think Toussaint Cyrox started because of Anthers. To me, it's like, you either have to have like a giant channel that brings in a ton of traction, or you have to have like made something that was like instrumental. Like Ludwig obviously is instrumental to fucking Smash. Although I'd put Ludwig probably in Slippy era.
Yeah, I actually would too. I was gonna say Slime stays in this era for Beyond the Summit.
If you saw it, yeah.
Yeah, Slime and Aiden ran a bunch of BTSs. Hotbit also, I think, would be a very reason. I think Hotbit did a lot for
Hotbit's here.
Melee.
I think the Summit in general. And who's the Summit person?
Oh, LD?
Yeah.
Yeah, LD.
And we're probably missing probably important people from the MLG era, because admittedly, me and Toph are not as knowledgeable about this time. So We probably missed up here. I'm going to do this now is Fizzy in the Slippy era, just before I forget, because that is like an inexcusable one to forget. Who else broke out around this time period? Not many people really broke out around this time period. None had a top 5 Slippy era. Like, I feel like that's really important. He won an online major, and that's like really fucking massive.
Yeah, to me, None is actually Slippy era.
Well, no, I feel like None is this era. This is when he beat Mewtwo King for the first time.
Oh,
he beat Mewtwo King twice in 2016 to 2019.
True,
and he had some runs.
Is Amsa the dinosaur?
Amsa's the previous era. I think. Oh well, no, Amsa probably should be moved to this era. Actually, Amsa should almost certainly be moved.
I guess the thing about Amsa is he did beat.
But he stopped.
The Mewtwo King win. The Mewtwo King win was pretty early. So
I because fine. if you watch the documentary by Awesome Sauce, who's also on this list, he had his breakout and then worked for a while. Moki, I don't know what I'd do with Moki. I feel like Moki is like right there, but Moki would have broken out in the Slippy era. Moki, the thing is, Moki was top 10 in Slippy, and then he's having a top 5 year right now. So he's like he's like literally about to be Hall of Fame. I might just give it to him because I feel like the year's gonna speak for itself. I feel like I'd probably include Moki.
I'm gonna pick a random player in the top 10, and I'm gonna discredit them at every turn for like a couple months just to do it.
That'd be fucking hilarious. I guess let's just do the breakout. Let's do the breakout as like the first year you were top 10. Because I think that makes it really obvious.
That's consistent, yeah. In which case, Amsa would be this era.
Yeah.
Not Amsa with an H, who would be way earlier.
Oh, what about Javi?
Dude, I mean, okay. I've been wanting to make a YouTube video on this forever. I think Javi... Me and Blur talk about this sometimes. There's like this secret, like dark theory that Javi might have been at one point the best player in the world.
I feel like Javi's peaks, he should almost certainly get in.
I mean, his peaks were nuts. He beat PP and he got... I mean, he didn't come to the U.S. very often, but when he showed up, I mean, he was ridiculous. If he came to more tournaments, he would have been on for sure, I think.
Javi, if he had
his best rank, well, so this is the messed up part is
he never traveled.
Yeah, he never traveled. The funny thing about Javi is there's videos of him playing from 2006, and he looked way better and way cleaner than every Fox from that era by a lot. Like he was doing way more modern Fox stuff way earlier, right? But at the time, people were like, well, because people like to kind of discount people that haven't proven themselves in tournament. And so everyone was like, well, dude, if he came to the US, he'd get washed. He'd get chain grabbed by our Marths and, Ken would chain grab, whatever. Da-da-da-da-da-da. But we kind of look back because he came to Apex and he beat PP. And then we're like, wait, this guy, maybe he was just always that good.
Thank you, Carl.
And then once you know that he was good enough to beat PP in 2010, when you go back and you watch his footage from 2006, you're like, fuck, man, was he just the best Fox? I don't know. He looked like the best Fox. Like, if you actually watch the footage from 06, no one was moving like that. So, was his peak 2006? But he didn't come to the US until 2010, so it's kind of hard to say.
Well, the thing about this sub compared to other snubs is that this snub is because of a foreigner. And that's why I have trouble. Like, how do I deal with the fact that some people need to be, like, I'm almost about to make a tier for people who probably would have been good enough but just didn't travel because they weren't from the US, and just throw like Bomb Soldier, Javi, maybe Ice in there. You're like, yeah, we don't know how good these people were, but we know that they were at least really fucking good and probably could have gone on this list if they lived in the US.
That's pretty reasonable. In that case, I've got a couple Japan guys that I think should be on here for sure. They're actually there's actually this hidden machine. It's Pokemon hidden. What is it? Well, actually, what is HM?
Hidden machine.
Is it literally hidden machine? Okay, well, they got some hidden machines down here.
I guess I'll throw Amsa in here. I guess Nun's breakout's technically the Slippy era then. That's weird to think though, because that kind of means that I broke out before Nun, and that just feels wrong.
I'm a fan of Nun in Platinum era. I mean, I kind of like your thing that you said where, his Mewtwo King win. Like, to me, that's a breakout even if it's not a ranking.
We'll use that as a guideline. I still feel like I'm more Slippy era, but what did I do? What did I do in 2019? 2019, the breakout was Summit, and that, I feel like I have to. Well, that was like Mango, Amsa, HBox, and Johnny when he was top 10. And then I beat Leffen at Shine.
I think this era is fine for that. Yeah, I don't know.
All right. I'll throw myself in there. Amsa beating MTK was more important than going up to top 10. Again, sometimes I change things. You know what? Fine. We'll throw Amsa back here. Sure. It doesn't really matter that much. The thing is, Amsa wasn't continuously competing. The reason I'm kind of capping that is because Amsa stopped playing for like a few years and didn't really do that well for the next few years. So, like, to me, it was a break on the nothing for a while. Right. This is like the era where he solidified himself as like a top contender. So I think that was more like a fluke. Whereas the thing that I did is like beat 4 top 10 players, the best player in the world, then beat another top 5 player the next tournament, and then beat more later.
Yeah.
He won a couple events 2015. Not at the same level though. Like, it's a very different player.
Someone brought up Kira for SSBF tutorials. Dude, that's a big channel. That was a big YouTube channel back in the day.
Tafo's in here saying he got snubbed. Tafo definitely should be on here because he was meleeed on me.
Melee It On Me.
The ranks for
and
a while.
I guess everyone else from Melee It On Me is basically already on here, so you might as well have
Yeah,
Tafel on here for, I guess it'd be Five Gods era.
Also, just a lot of like general like melee. I feel like Tafel is a lot of back end stuff that people wouldn't as easily notice.
Although it's funny that Tafo had to bring himself up. Everyone else got brought up by someone else, but Tafo's the one guy that had to bring himself up. Did a lot of rankings, right? Like we're referencing SSBM rank lists that Tafo made. So if no Tafo, how do we even make this list? There you go, QED, case in point. We can't even do this list without Tafo. So it's like a self-fulfilling, I don't even know what I'm saying right now. Anyway, it's full circle. That's what I'm saying. Hey, Tafo, I love that you're bringing up Neil. I think Neil DT should be on here. Not only did he make TO the first program that we used before Challenge and Smash GG, he also made All His Brawl, which was a smaller deal in the Melee community, although I would argue that some Melee players still used it.
SBM tutorials, I could see SBM tutorials being on here.
Yeah. Let's look at the YouTube page, youtube.com/SBM tutorials. Is this gonna work? How to be good at Super Smash Bros. The most general title is just how to be good at Super Smash Bros.
575k views.
Yeah,
did the job.
And then second, 487k views.
Okay, so remember my criteria was, does it change the community for the better? That made it for the worse. So we're going to disown it from the list. I think we'll come back at the end, but probably. I would say probably. Slippy Era and Post Corner, we wouldn't even add anyone. Who do we add that's like maybe Moki for Slippy Era, and that's it. Moki's a big edge case right now, but he's like about to be there. He needs like another year and he's fine.
I'm going to say something for content, and I'll just let you respond to it. Where does Prince Abu go?
In the dumpster. Sorry, I had to do it. That dude is just a fucking meme and a half. I remember when I was at a tournament and he was like, coach me now. And I was like, dude, I'm at a tournament. He's like, I take priority. And I'm like, I hate you. I hate everything about you, dude.
Dude, can you imagine, like, what if you wake up, like, give it a car accident or something, you wake up and he's like your doctor.
Dude, I think I would just give up.
Pull the plug. God's calling me. It's my time.
It's like, hey, this is a sign that it's time to go.
Yeah.
Is there anyone from Slippy Era that we just missed?
Yeah, who are the people that were like because the thing is, the people who peaked and like the people who had crazy peaks during the Slippy Era, they're already on here. It's like Johnny and Nunn. Kadoran might start having a case soon.
Kadoran and Moki, I think, are like 1 year away.
Yeah.
And then just right there. But I feel like they need 1 year or a major win.
The only other person that comes to mind is Slug.
And Slug had one good year. I can't put that on. 1 good year.
Unfortunately, it's like too little.
Yeah, he just wasn't there for enough. Triff, no, Triff's never gotten top 10 yet. Triff is like one great year, and I think Triff could be on. Well, we'll just put Jmook in here and get rid of this.
People were lobbying for BME for the MLG era. BME, I would say BME for basically who are the biggest YouTube content creators in the MLG era? BME and Bach, right?
I mean, we have no one in the. If he's the MLG, he could be the person we need in MLG. Because
we don't have anyone down there. It does look woefully empty. To me, I think MLG Bach should be in there. He's the reason everyone knows what a lot of these players look like. Like Bach would go to these tournaments and he'd do video montages, and they'd have people like Chillin and Azin and Isaiah and Ken and all the big names from that era, and they'd be like really well edited. And I feel like that honestly did pave the way. Like I've always felt like Melee, even since the really early days, did a much better job than a lot of other kind of video games from around that era of like actually showing you like what the players were like outside of the game. And I think Bach was actually kind of the reason that happened. He was like the innovator for that style of content. Yeah, Alpha Zealot, I think Alpha Zealot helped to run MLG, right? JV and Alpha Zealot.
I mean, if they're instrumental MLG was fucking massive for us. I think you just kind of need to put that in there.
Yeah, I'm gonna defer to Tafel on this one.
I trust Tafel's judgment on like what we're valuing, and if someone's like magnitude was up there, I trust that he would be like aware of that.
Yeah. Also, like JV. Well, first of all, it's the reason we say JV for stock and stuff like that. Bought Smashboards and ran Smashboards, and that was really huge, obviously. So to me, these are the people that are kind of like, if this is the FGC, they'd be like the Cannon brothers.
I'm still stuck on, do I put Moki in? Moki's like tearing me apart. Because realistically, for me, it's like, oh, he hasn't a top 10 year, but like there's one big tournament left in the year, and it's Big House. And Big House is admittedly really important, but he's clearly going to have like a 5 or 6 year at least, and with potential to go up.
And I don't know, we can count the summer rankings, right?
I think so.
Why not?
Yeah,
we can count them. You got 5th. All right, let's put them on. I mean, 5th is really high.
I think we can obviously give like credence to like this era for being like, yeah, you guys are like really close to it.
Yeah, let's just put Moki on. It's obvious that, I mean...
And he's going to get there at some point in the very near future, even if he doesn't get there today.
Yeah, and his career is also long enough. It's not like he just came out... Like, I mean, Moki's 2019.
He's just really fucking good. I think you just have to put him on there. Right. I think like this year is just enough.
Moki was...
Oh, he's in chat. To be fair, he's also top 15 for 5. Well, top 15 for 5 years, we're not giving people. Like, we didn't put Duck on. We didn't put Crush on. We're not even sure if we're putting Ice on.
Yeah,
yet.
but it's that plus a top 5.
But then the fact that you're top 5 in the summer, I think it puts it over. Because I'm
Yeah.
just like, in my head, I'm like, do I count the year to date? I'm like, yeah, I don't see why I wouldn't.
I think Moki's on.
But None being there too. None was top 5 in Slippy for a while. That's why I had him on there. But I agree. That's why I'm in the same era.
P-Test's most famous video was 2019, but December 23rd. I mean, if you wanted to balance out the eras a little bit, you could put Practical Test here. And I think that would be reasonable because a lot of these views probably came from the Slippy era. To me, anyway.
I mean, yeah, I feel like the judge would call that point. I'm down for P-Test. But P-Test did a lot.
I think we can say that we've gotten to the point where we're basically mostly talking, or I would say exclusively talking about just contributions outside of gameplay.
So the only cases that we would go back for are
Ice, right?
Ice, I'm still not sure of because Ice did have doubles, which is really important. We also need Kalindi for the creators. Kalindi is a player first and foremost, and Kalindi is like close on contribution plus gameplay, but not there yet.
Yeah, for contributions plus gameplay, I think Nintendo is on the cusp.
Yeah, I think Nintendo's quite close.
Because the thing for me is Nintendo, first of all, had some top 8
Oh.
majors. Nintendo had some top 8s at Genesis. Also, Nintendo had a hand in both Pound and SmashCon. And that's like a
On you.
bulk of the East Coast majors at this point. Oh, HM doesn't stand for Hidden Machine. It stands for Honorable Mention. Right. I'm an idiot.
Oh my god. Drugfox was never top 10. And he only had like a 3-year relevant career. Drugfox had a chance to be on for contribution.
Yeah, for like he kind of pioneered melee coaching. And to be fair, I think that's pretty significant.
Like I would be able to throw Sammy here just for everything he did for all the players. Because I think it's actually like very significant, and it's the fact that he helped so many players. What about EMP Lemon? I don't think one documentary, even if it's a really good one, gets you in, unless it's like Samox, who made it about all of Smash. Right?
Yeah, that's how I feel. I mean, Moist Critical made some videos about
I don't
various
think he gets
melee
the Hall of Fame
topics
for that.
and those videos had a lot of views, but I just don't think he was a melee focused content creator. You can't say the same thing about Ludwig. Ludwig ran melee tournaments. Ludwig ran my pool at Paragon in 2015. You know, he's been part of the scene forever. He edited the reads.
Boki, the argument there is that at that point I have to put him basically every big person that has given Smash a spotlight at some point, which is like crazy. It's like Ludwig's not here because he's big. Ludwig's here because he has done so much for Melee, like the LACS is pretty much like giving us invitationals in the spot of Summit. The fact that he uses his platform like consistently for Melee. I don't think the cheat's on this list yet.
He's like Contra J tier, right?
Yeah, where it's like he's going to be in like a year or two, but I don't think he's there yet.
I mean, I would love to put all 3 of them on, but
If Ice doesn't get in here, he gets in here no matter what. Ice didn't have the singles results, but I do think Ice gets in if maybe with doubles on top of singles. I'm just debating if I put Ice here or here.
yeah, and to people saying stuff like, you know, like the King, I mean, it's so easy to go down these character specific rabbit holes, or like so and so got into Melee because of so and so.
Like it has to be the community as a whole. If you're for the contribution, I think the community as a whole had to have like substantially benefited from it, and I think you have to be Melee centric.
Going back to players very briefly, someone brought up Dark Reign. I'm realizing that Dark Reign did have a top 10 year. In 2009, Dark Reign was 8th.
Oh.
And Dark Reign's career was like pretty long, right? I mean, if you control F Dark Reign, he's on here a lot. And even in the years where he wasn't like active enough to get on the top 25.
He was pretty active.
Yeah, I mean,
what happened after 2009? Did he just stop entering?
For a while, he stopped entering, or he'd enter like 1 or 2 majors a year, and he'd always do pretty good. But like, he was just a lot less active. But,
I feel like I'm always going to give it to him. I think the fact that he spanned the entirety of early Melee and was on this list every single time and had a top 10 year, I think that warrants it.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
I think to be on this list every single time pre-Gods, like literally 2010 was the start of like 5 Gods pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so to be on this list every single time, yeah, I feel like that's pretty worthy actually. Yeah, I'm down to throw Dark Reign in. And we can put him in the MLG era because it looks like that's when he kind of started getting really good.
Okay, I'm down.
2005. And that gives us another MLG era, which is nice.
Nice. Balances out a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, so let me look at this. Ice won in doubles. What did he win any super majors in doubles? He got so many seconds. He won Genesis Red. That was literally the doubles bracket, wasn't it?
No, you're thinking of Genesis Fuse. Genesis Red was just a tournament. Genesis Red was the tournament that Crush taunted Dizkid Boogie like 50 times. Wait, can you go to that? What was the singles results? I'm looking at your stream.
Dizkid Boogie outplaced Crush.
Oh, no. This might have been the one where Dizkid got his revenge.
Ice only had 4 years on this list. Oh my god, he just did not have that long of a career.
Yeah, I guess not.
That's annoying because I feel like Ice by Skills should have been on here, but just wasn't. What about Sastifer?
Yeah, Sastifer was extremely good. He was like the first person to beat Ken.
That's a 6th and a 5th.
Yeah, it is 6th and a 5th. If you're old school enough, old school people will put Sastifer on here. Damn, it is 6th and 5th.
I think 6th and 5th is good enough.
You put Reciferous, right? I think if Reciferous is on, because Reciferous is only also like active for like 2 years. Yeah, I think
I think a sixth and a fifth is a really good 2 years.
Cesper was like, dude, Cesper had like a winning record on Ken. Yeah.
I'm looking at the people who are around. He's like in between Shu and Wes, above Chillin in 2005.
Yeah, put Cesper on.
Aren't there people with even shorter years on this list already? It's about quantity plus quality. Like the evaluation is both.
Here's the problem with making the fringe list is if we make the fringe list, then people are going to start arguing about who deserves to be on the fringe list.
Yep.
So
it's just going to go down the same rabbit hole.
It's going to be,
and then we get a fringe list.
Exactly. It'll never end. Because people are going to be like, well, if you're doing a fringe list, what about Fast Like Tree or something? And
yeah, exactly.
It's
not worth it.
It's not worth it. Yeah, Matt.Zeb, I guess. He'd be 5 gods era.
Unironically, where's Magi?
Magi career too short.
Is this list all men? There's not a single lady on here. No, that is correct. I think Milk Tea, if you're gonna include any
for Smash Sisters is actually. Hang on a minute. Wait a minute.
Yeah, I think Milk Tea actually
Smash Sisters was a huge deal. I think it's less of a thing at majors these days, but
it was huge for a while.
It was huge for a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good point.
I'm down for Milk Tea. I think she did a bunch.
What era would that be?
MLG.
I guess MLG. Yeah, I guess MLG.
Yeah. Y'all sleeping on Laud? Not really.
No, I think Laud is going to be one of the next people to get on.
I think we can make like a next up list.
Yeah.
And I would have like Laud on here. I'd have Kadoran on here.
Yeah. Walt is next up for content creators. Aklo would be next up.
Aklo is like a next up. Yeah. Aklo's a good example of someone who's like next up.
Every major, I'm like, this is going to be the Aklo tournament. Josh Man's close to being next up. Yeah.
I could put Josh. Needs a little bit more. Melee stats, sure. Fine. The cheat, I'll put it up next, sure. That's fine. And that's all for now. If I miss someone, my bad.
Perfect. Well, this was good. I think we did a good job. I think we did
so too.
Wait, we put.
Oh, Cactuar never made it?
Oh, okay, yeah, throw him on 5 gods era, right above Blur. That's easy too because you don't have to drag anything around. Awesome. In fact, if his tag was anything that was lower than Blur, it'd be too complicated, so he wouldn't put him on. But it's easy enough that we'll put him on. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you for having me on for this.
I'll probably post this to Twitter and you can make the video out of it.
Yeah, sure. And I'm really interested in seeing because I feel like Twitter will have the people like Twitch chat is one thing because Twitch chat people are kind of rapid firing, but Twitter will be where there's like some really like people are going to there's going to be some responses that people let simmer a little bit and they might be a lot more insightful.